520,000 miles. Let that sit for a second. That is one engine, in one truck, still turning over after more than 500,000 miles of hard work. That is farther than I have driven in my whole life, and I have been behind the wheel since Nixon was in office. The truck wrapped around that motor will rot away first. The frame, the bed, the seats, all of it gives up long before the engine does, and it will still fire on the first turn of the key. Here is what nobody at the dealership wants to tell you. They want you trading in every 5 or 6 years. They want you scared of a truck that has rolled past 100,000 miles. But the engines I am about to walk you through came out of a different world, back when a motor was built to outlast the man who bought it. I have had most of these apart on the lift. I have rebuilt them, driven them, and watched them shrug off the kind of miles that put a modern truck on a flatbed back to the dealer. I am Frank. I gave 34 years to the GM truck plant in Flint, Michigan, building the trucks a lot of you are still driving today. I retired a master tech, and my own daily driver is a 1996 Chevy K1500 I have kept alive for 30 years. So, when I tell you an engine is bulletproof, I am not reading it off a brochure. I have had my hands inside it. We are counting down 10 truck engines that refuse to die. Real motors, real mileage, and most of them still out there for the price of one repair bill on something new. Stay with me to number 1, because it is the one I would put my own money on. And one honest warning before we start. No engine is truly immortal. Skip the oil and even these will quit on you. Treat them right, and they will bury you. Let's kick it off at number 10, the Chevrolet 4.3-liter Vortec V6. Now a few of you just rolled your eyes, because it is a 6, not an 8. This little motor has carried S10 pickups, half-ton Silverados, and Sonomas well past 290,000 miles, and it has been doing it since 1985. Here is the trick to it. The 4.3 is nothing more than the legendary Chevy 350 small block with 2 cylinders cut off the back. Same tough bottom-end thinking, just shorter. That means it shares a mountain of parts with its big V8 brother, so nothing about it is exotic or expensive to fix. Cast iron block, cast iron heads, built like a boat anchor. In 1996, it picked up the Vortec heads and a better fuel injection setup, and it woke right up. I have pulled these out of work vans with 1/3 miles showing, the body rotting away around a motor that still had strong compression. You do not need 8 cylinders to go the distance. You need a simple design and iron where it counts. Number 9, the Toyota 3-liter, the 3VZ V6. This is the motor that hauled Toyota pickups and 4Runners from 1988 through 1995, and plenty of them crossed 300,000 miles. Now, I am going to shoot straight with you, because that is the whole point of this channel. The 3VZ has one known weak spot, and it is the head gasket. That number 6 cylinder runs hot, and the early gaskets would let go. Toyota knew it and redesigned the part. So here is the honest version. Fix that one gasket, do it right, and the bottom end of this engine is about as close to immortal as Japanese iron gets. Cast iron block for the strength, aluminum heads to hold the weight down, and a factory tune so mild the motor is barely working in normal driving. It runs a timing belt, so you keep up with that on schedule. But a motor that is never stressed and never asked to prove anything is a motor that just keeps turning. That is the 3VZ. Number 8, the Ford 300 inline 6, the 4.9-liter. If you grew up around farms or fleets, you already know this one. Ford stuffed this straight 6 into F-Series trucks from 1965 all the way to 1996, and it lived in the Econoline vans right alongside them. 31 years in production tells you plenty. Guys call it the tractor motor, and they mean it as the highest kind of praise. It makes its torque down low, right where a work truck lives, and it makes it forever. The secret is how little there is to break. 7 main bearings holding down a forged crank, 1 camshaft, and a cast iron block so thick you can bore it out and rebuild it 2 or 3 times over. I have seen these past 300,000 miles that had never been touched except for oil and plugs. No overhead cams, no timing belt drama, no computer having a nervous breakdown. Just a long stroke 6 doing honest work. They quietly ran irrigation pumps and delivery fleets for decades, and thousands are still out there today. Simple wins. It always has. Number 7, and this one is going to surprise a few of you, the Nissan VQ40DE, a 4-liter V6. I know, Nissan is not the first badge you think of for heavy miles, but this motor earned its spot. Since 2005, it has carried Frontiers, Xteras, and Pathfinders past 250,000 miles without complaint, and it is part of Nissan's VQ engine family, which won awards year after year for good reason. It is a 60-degree V6, compact and smooth, with an aluminum block and aluminum heads. Now do not let the aluminum trick you into thinking it is delicate. The bottom end uses what they call a ladder frame construction, a stiff lower crankcase you usually only see on performance engines, and it keeps everything rock solid under load. In its early form, it was rated at 261 horses up top, with a stout 281 pound-feet of low-end twist, plenty to move a loaded mid-sized truck. Best part, it turns a timing chain instead of a belt, so there is no expensive interval to babysit, and it uses variable valve timing to stay efficient right across the rev range. It is the most modern motor on this list so far, and it has still proven it can go the distance. Number 6. The Duramax 6.6-liter V8 turbo diesel. GM truck guys, stand up. This one belongs to you. Since 2001, the Duramax has been the diesel of choice in Silverado and Sierra heavy-duty trucks, and a well-cared-for one will roll right past 500,000 miles. This is good engineering, plain and simple. An iron block for the muscle a diesel needs, aluminum heads up top, and a head design that clamps down hard enough to hold together under serious boost. The Bosch common rail injection meters the fuel with real precision. Now here is the honest note. The very first ones, the 2001 through 2004 motors, had injector trouble. GM stepped up and covered it, and every version after that got the fix. So if a fella tells you the Duramax is junk, he is talking about a 20-year-old problem that got solved a long time ago. Look after the fuel system, and this engine will outwork 3 gas motors and still be standing. Number 5. The Toyota 22R, a 2.4-liter 4-cylinder, and this is the motor that built Toyota's whole name in this country. It powered the Toyota pickup from 1981 through 1995, and it earned a one-word reputation that mechanics do not hand out lightly: bulletproof. Folks throw that word around, but this little 4 actually earned it. The plain version came with a carburetor and made around 81 horsepower and 187 pound-feet of torque. The fuel-injected 22RE made about 112, so it was never quick, but what it lacked in muscle it made up for by simply never dying. Cast iron block, aluminum head, and a timing chain instead of a belt, so there is no rubber to snap and strand you out on the shoulder. The one thing to watch on the high milers is the plastic chain guides, which turn brittle with age, so you keep an ear out for it. Beyond that, Toyota tuned this thing so gently from the factory that it is barely breaking a sweat at highway speed. That is why so many of them are still running today, decades after the last one left the line. Number 4. The Dodge 5.9-liter V8. And right away I have to clear something up because folks get this wrong constantly. This is the gas 5.9, the Magnum, a 360 cubic inch V8. It is not the Cummins. The Cummins is a diesel that just happens to wear the same 5.9 number, and mixing the two up is a rookie mistake, so now you know better than that. This gas Magnum went into Ram 2500 and 3500 haulers across the 1994 through 2003 span, and later into the Dakota. What makes it last is the bottom end. It uses a deep skirt block, which means the sides of the block hang down past the crank and cradle it, so the crankshaft barely moves and barely wears. And unlike the old flat tappet motors it replaced, the Magnum spins a hydraulic roller cam that knocks the friction way down. Guys have pushed these past 350,000 miles. It is not fancy. It is just built heavy in all the right places. Number 3. The Chevy small block V8, the engine that put America on wheels. This design goes all the way back to 1955, and in one form or another it has powered everything from Corvettes to work trucks for 70 years. In the truck world, The ones you want are the 5.7-liter Vortec and the older pushrod versions, and with real care, they have been known to touch 500,000 miles. Now, I have to be square with you here, because this channel does not hand out blanket praise. Stick with the 5.7 Vortec and the older iron small blocks for that kind of longevity. The newer 5.3 with the cylinder shutoff system carries its own lifter headaches, and that is a different conversation for a different day. But the classic small block, the real one, lasts because the design is old and proven. It is compact, so it cools well and stays out of trouble. The push rods look outdated next to overhead cams, and that is exactly why it survives. Fewer moving parts means fewer things to fail. Chevy has been quietly improving the metal and the machining for decades without wrecking what already worked. Some things you just do not need to reinvent. Number 2, the Ford 7.3-liter Power Stroke V8 diesel, and this is the one the diesel guys have been waiting on. Let me set the record straight on the years, because a lot of folks get this backwards. The 7.3 Power Stroke ran from 1994.5 through 2003. In 2003, Ford swapped it out for the 6.0, and the 6.0 is a whole other story you do not want any part of. So the good years are that first stretch, in the F250 and F350 Super Duty, and in the Excursion from 2000 through 2003. Enthusiasts call the 7.3 the million-mile engine, and they are not joking around. It is overbuilt everywhere it counts. A thick cast iron block, forged steel connecting rods that will take all the torque you can throw at them, and self-adjusting hydraulic lifters that ask for next to nothing. The injection on it is stout and simple, and it proved far more reliable than the complicated setups Ford tried later. This is the diesel people go hunting for on purpose 20 and 30 years later, and they pay good money to find a clean one. That tells you everything. And number 1, the engine I would spend my own money on, the Cummins 6.7-liter turbo diesel. This inline-six has been in Ram 2500 and 3500 trucks since 2007, and a properly maintained one will cross 520,000 miles. That is enough to drive from New York to Los Angeles and back, over and over more than 170 times. So what makes it last? It comes down to how simple and how heavy it is built. It is an inline-six, the most naturally balanced layout there is, so it runs smooth and loads its bearings evenly. The block and the cylinder head are both cast iron, and they will take pressure that would crack a lesser motor wide open. And here is my favorite part. The camshaft is driven by gears, not a chain and not a belt, so there is simply nothing back there to stretch or snap. That same basic engine, in a bigger commercial form, hauls medium-duty trucks all day long. Cummins built this thing to work for a living and never clock out. That is why it sits at the top of my list. If I were buying one truck to keep for the rest of my life, this is the motor I would want under the hood. So there they are, 10 truck engines that flat out refuse to quit. The little Chevy 4.3, the Toyota 3VZ, and the mighty 22R, the old Ford 300, the surprising Nissan, the Duramax, the Dodge Magnum, the small block, the 7.3, and the King, the Cummins 6.7. Every one of them proves the same simple idea. A motor built heavy, tuned gently, and kept simple will outlast the truck, the loan, and half the people who ever doubted it. But let me leave you with the same honest truth I told you up front. Not one of these engines is truly indestructible. The reason they reach these numbers is the man holding the wrench. Change the oil on time, keep the fuel clean, do not lug it, and any one of these will bury you. Skip all that, and even the toughest name here will let you down early. So, I want to hear from you. Which of these engines have you owned? And how many miles did you put on it before something finally gave up? Drop it in the comments, because I read them. And if you want the whole playbook on picking a truck that goes the distance, keeping it alive, and knowing which ones to walk away from, I put together a book called The Right Ride. It walks through the buying traps, the maintenance that actually matters, and the engines worth chasing. I am not going to hard sell you. There is a link in the description if you want it. Either way, do me a favor and hit subscribe so you do not miss the next one. Take care of the motor and it will take care of you. Fluids on time, foot off the floor. This is Frank.